Yo, what up, what up? We're back for some more just for fun action in Modern. Tonight, I'm going to show you my most recent brew. This is called Elemental Command. This is a hilarious deck. It's very, very funny. It's a lot of fun to play. It actually has some sick interactions, which I'll go through in a moment. It can win out of nowhere, which to me is one of the hallmarks of a deck you can play in Modern. It's deck that has value, and you can play normally, but you can occasionally just straight up win out of nowhere. And it uses a lot of cards from Modern Masters 2015, and that's sort of some of the interactions were sort of what drew me to that. So it's an elemental tribal deck, and it's also using Kolaghan's Command and Undying Evil as its two clutch spells. So elemental command. It is a Grixis deck. Interesting mana base. Now, you'll notice I only have 20 lands, and there's a bunch of 5 and 6 drops. Now, there's a reason for that, and it's that 12 of our creatures are mana-producing creatures in a sense. So, I'll go explain that a little more. First, I want to talk about the creatures. So we have Generator Servant, right, which is a way to power out a creature. It's also an elemental. Key to note, it's a 2 mana 2/1, which is always a good filler creature when you need one in a pinch. And when you sack this to add mana, power out something early, it also gives that creature haste. That's very key. Smoke Braider is taps for 2 mana. It's like a soul ring for elementals, right? Except better because it's 2 mana of any color. So it fixes, you can use it to activate abilities of elementals. It's just a really really great card in the right deck. It also is a body and an elemental itself. Being an elemental is key for a few things, one of which is Soul Stoke, which is your elemental lord, pumps all the other elementals. You can use it to power out things and give them haste, and that is why it's okay. So all these 3 creatures are generating mana in a sense. Like the Smoke Raider literally and the Generator Servant literally generate mana, and this generates mana by letting you play a 6-drop for 2 mana. Now, of course, that creature is sacrificed at the end step, but that's not always a bad thing. And all these big drops is how we know that it's not always a bad thing, and also some of our spells here, right? So if we power out Nova Chaser, this card is insane. I never saw it until I recently did a Gatherer search for Elemental to look at all the Elementals, and this is just so crazy. It's 10 power creature, it's trample, it only costs 4. You can get in there and smash and just finish your opponent super quick. So there's 2 downsides to this card. One is that it requires that you champion an elemental, so you have to exile another elemental when this comes into play. So if you choose the elemental and then they removal it, I guess, in response, or if you only have one other elemental and they cast a removal spell on that in response, then you end up having to sacrifice this. So that kind of sucks. So you don't really want to do that into open mana all the time. But and then the other thing is it's exiling an elemental that you have on the field. Now, with some of our spells, that's actually really good, and I'll show you that in a moment. But this is great to be powered out with Soul Stoke or Servant, because giving it haste is like 10 damage out of nowhere, which is really effective in ending games quickly. And in fact, I've had some turns where I cast 2 of these with haste in the same turn and just killed my opponent in 1 shot. So very important to be able to do that in Modern. Now, some of the other things that work well with this is the Evoke creatures. So all these 13 dudes have Evoke, or Evoke, however you want to call it, and they have either come into play or leave the battlefield effects. So if you have Spite Bellows out and you champion it with the Nova Chaser, when it leaves, it's dealing 6 damage to a creature, and then it comes back. You know, if they deal with the Nova Chaser, and you still have the 6/1. You know, so it's very good, and that works really well also with Mull Drifter, Shriek Maw, and Aether Snipe. Now, all of these things also work well with the Soul Soak because they still get all their triggers, their enter the battlefield or leaving the battlefield triggers from being Soul Stoked in. You know, also you can power them out early with the Generator Servant or the Smoke Braider. Now, the other great thing about all these Evoke guys is Undying Evil and Kolaghan's Command. So, if you evoke, you know, use the card, let's say you use Shriek Maw as a terror, you know, early on, kill somebody's dude. You can then Kolaghan's Command it back and kill another dude or make them discard or whatever and get so much value off of being able to reuse and enter the battlefield effect and have a body attached to it. If, let's say you evoke your Mull Drifter for blue 2, cast Undying Evil in response, your Mull Drifter, so you've spent blue black 2, your Mull Drifter will draw you 2 cards from the evoke trigger, sack itself, come back as a 3/3 due to Undying Evil, and draw you 2 more cards for 4 mana. 4 cards and a 3/3 flyer for 4 mana. That's insane value, right? That's a trick we learned in Pauper, and it translates well to Modern. This card is just great in Modern. It's 1 black, it saves your creature from removal, it actually brings it back stronger, and if it has an enter the battlefield effect, you get the value out of it too. Bolt is just Bolt. In our lands, mostly normal, couple interesting ones. Primal Beyond is, you know, a City of Brass for, or Birds of Paradise, however you want to call it, for elementals. So it's nice in an elemental deck. You probably couldn't play it in a deck that wasn't dedicated to elementals, but it's pretty sweet. And Hall of the Bandit Lord is another way to give our guys haste, because I like ending the games quickly, especially with this kind of a deck. With the Nova Chaser, you want to be able to give that haste. Like, Nova Chaser gains a lot of value and strength by being hasty, right? So this really helps as far as that's concerned. And it's just, you know, another way to end the game, take big chunks out of your opponent and this kind of thing. Sideboard, I just threw in some more random Evoke guys. I figure against like a control deck where, you know, where we don't want removal as much, you know, Mournwell could probably be better for, you know, making them mind rot them all the time. Fault Grinder could be good against, like, I don't know, a Tron deck or something like that. Ingot Chewer, you know, is just a different type of removal. So you can, you know, wiggle around, you know, which guys are better for what situation. There's probably a few more things I could throw in there. But, you know, as of right now, this is how I've been playing the deck, and I gotta tell you, it's a lot of fun. So we'll get to some matches in a bit. Thanks for watching, just for fun.